Hello everyone, welcome back. So in our last lecture, we've covered locators ID, name, class name, tag name, link text, and partial link text. So in this lecture, we're going to cover one of the most popular locator, which is called XPath and CssSelector. So let's go to XPath. So to create a XPath, one thing we have to remember that the XPath is not a direct locator or properties of a web element. We have to create the XPath using any other parameters or properties we have in web object. Okay, it could be the ID, name, class name, any one of them. Okay, here is the syntax to create a XPath. So there is the syntax we have to follow. This is the important syntax you have to remember. So sometimes it's we ask during the interview, what is the syntax of creating XPath? So syntax / tag name, then in a bracket @attribute equals to value, and the value of the attribute over here it should be in single quote. Okay, or we can say / asterisk instead of tag name. You can use asterisk, so it will accept any tag name. Then it's the same rest of the part @attribute equals to value in single quote. Okay, example over here, if you have a tag name is input, so your XPath would be input / input, and if your attribute is a name, so it would be the name, and the value of the attribute it's email, so you have to put the email in single quote. So let's see an example, and here is our the class we were working, doing all the example we covered in our last class, all of them. So now we're going to use over here, we'll to say number 7, right? Number 7 would be using XPath. Okay, XPath. So let's see and go back to our practice page. So here, in our last class, we when you use we using name locator, at that time we use this text field and we enter Selenium. I hope you can flashback that, right? So here, after you write or enter Selenium over here, there's a 2 button over here, alter and confirm. We can click on alter, so it will pop up. Okay, so let's see, we're going to click on alter button using an XPath. So let's see how we can spy this alter button. Right click, inspect. And this is the HTML code. Okay, this is there's a ID, you can see ID, class, those are the different attribute. And however, you can see there is a XPath also, the property they use, but this XPath is not going to be acceptable in Selenium. Selenium, always your XPath you have to create. Okay, so let's see, you would use the ID in this case. So copy the value of the ID and come back to our class here. So let's see, we're going to say driver dot find element, select the find element by dot what we're going to use. So we're going to use XPath. You can select the XPath and you can see XPath, it expect string value. The value of the XPath, it should be in a string, it should be in double quote. So select this one, so within a double quote, put the double quote. So now let's follow the XPath syntax. So what is the syntax? Syntax is here. So we're going to say tag name //. Here's we're following this. Anyone you can follow, either this one or this one. Let's follow the first one. So tag name. So what's the tag name? So tag name for this HTML code for that button, it's an input. So let's type over here input, and then let's follow the syntax. So syntax, so we put the int tag, then it's this part. So let's put this one here @ what's the attribute name? So we have seen attribute name is ID equals to what would be the value? The value should be in single quote. So here is the value of the single quote. So at alter btn. So this is the XPath, you can say, for this locator, that button, this alter button. Okay, and then what do you want to do? We want to click on this alter button. So let's call the click method, right? And put a semicolon. Okay, so that should be your XPath. Okay, so let me, yes, we can run all of them, should be fine. Let's make a comment on this radio button so we can see that the text field is enter Selenium and should click up there. Okay, and you know what, I'm going to put another thread.sleeps. It's a sleep so that it's delay your execution. Is to hold your script, your script or execution of this page, on this page. So we'll understand, we'll go through in details later on what is thread.sleep. For now, it will slow down your execution so that we can see that after this enter and it's click on this alter button. Okay, so let's put in over here, I'll put some milliseconds, say maybe 3 seconds, 3000 L. Okay, and here it's give me, okay, just add this add through declaration, that's fine. So because we're adding thread.sleeps, it will slow down your script, your enter, it will hold your enter page, HTML page, so that we can see the action. Okay, that's why I added this one, thread.sleeps. Okay, so let's save it and run its Java application. Okay, it did really quick. You can see in this text field there is a Selenium, and after that it's clicked alert. That's why this alert pop-up window is open. You can see, hello Selenium, share this practice page who love to learn automations. Okay, this is the rest of the message. It's the default message, but this Selenium, this hello Selenium, comes from this. So whatever you type up there. Okay, click on OK, run. So let's close it. Okay, so that's the way you can create your XPath. We can now, the same thing you can do following the other syntax. What's the other syntax? Using a asterisk. So instead of input, you can put a asterisk sign here. So following this one. Okay, so asterisk means it will accept any tag name. So following this part, it will match, and in for this attribute and the value, whatever the tag name, like input, whatever the tag name, it will replace over here. So asterisk means it is a generic, and it will accept any tag name. So either any one of them you can use. Okay, let me put in this comment. So that's the way you can create your own XPath. However, there's a different other way you can create your XPath. So example, if you right click on this alter and you can create XPath here, I can show you. There is a third-party tool. It's called Selectors Hub. It's very popular. You can see following this Selectors Hub, there is a you can create an XPath. Copy, you can see not absolute, you can see there is a copy AVS XPath, that's called absolute XPath, and not that one. You can create a relative XPath. So there is a copy relative XPath. Copy this one, and then if I put it here, you can see it's exactly the same XPath I wrote. It's found this one. Okay, so you can use this third-party tools. It's a add-on on your browser. So if I go, if I go here, here, and then if you go Google and then just type Selectors Hub Chrome extension. It's developed by one of my friends. His name is Sanjay. You can see in details, their site. This is their official site. But you can, if you just search Selectors Hub Chrome extension, you will find here, Selectors Hub Chrome Xpath. Okay, for this one. So if you go there, you will find to add this one. Right now, it's already added to my browser. That's why it says remove. But in your case, you can, install this one with your Chrome browser, and you will see there will be some the logo for Selectors Hub in your browser should be. And also when you are going to locate or spy any element, you can find the locators here. If you're clicking there, so after you right click and inspect, then you will find the Selectors Hub option. So if you click on there, you will find, let me put it there, you will find for the Selectors Hub, you can create it. It will create for you the relative XPath, and there is a absolute XPath, AVS absolute XPath. So XPath basically is two types. Okay, one is the relative XPath, REL relative XPath. If you just copy and you can paste it here, this is the relative XPath. And let's see, AVS, it means absolute XPath. You can copy this one and paste it here. You can see the absolute XPath, it's a huge long XPath. So absolute XPath is not advisable, is not recommended to use it, because it's the long XPath. It means your driver to locate any element, it had to follow this link, this long path, one after another, and finally it will able to find the your locator, your object. But why it's not advisable? Because since it is a long XPath, and in the middle of this path, it's long XPath. If you let me just explain you a little bit about the HTML structure for very simple HTML structure for a page. So it is started with HTML and then closing HTML, and between this there is a body and then body, and inside the body, that's your actual HTML code for different elements, like the input element, the button element, the script element, different div you can see. And so when we follow the absolute XPath, it's started with the top corner of your HTML code from the beginning, and then until, say example, if your locator is here for the script, so it will start to journey, get the path from the beginning, then it will come to body, then it will come to div, then it will come to input, then it will find the script. So all those tag, those are different element, or you can say buttons, or web object. So in the real life, your web object in your page anytime can be moved, anytime can be changed. And if your path it's too long, and one of the web objects, say div or button, got changed from here to here, then this path will not able to follow. This path will be invalid. So there is and then it means your final locator will not able to reach, will not able to find it. So that's why absolute XPath is not recommended to use. Okay, so we're not going to use absolute XPath. We're going to always use the relative XPath. Okay, so using this Selectors Hub, that's another tool. So you can also create your XPath. This is a very easy way, but I don't recommend you always use, especially at the beginning, these tools, because this isn't third-party tools. So what if tomorrow Google said I'm not going to allow to add this third-party tool to my browser, so then you will not able to use it, right? So it's better to know how to create the XPath, the syntax, and syntax is very easy. It's not that difficult, right? And there is another way. So example, you right click over here, inspect. So, and then this is a related HTML code for that locator. So if you just right click, and then you can say copy, and you can say copy XPath, and then you can, let's put it here, paste it here. You can see that's also another way to get the XPath. This is following the, instead of tag name, is following the asterisk. So there is a multiple way you can get the XPath. Okay, so that's all about the XPath. Now let's move on the CSS selectors. So to test the CSS selectors, let's see which one we can use. How about this hide and show button? So over here, there's a two button. You can see hide and show. Okay, and then it means if you click on hide, you can see there is a hide and show field. There's a text box. So if you click on hide, the box get disappear. So how about we're going to test this? We'll see this our hide button and show button whether it's working or not. So we'll check the hide button to test it. So let's look at this one. Let's look at this one. Before we look at, let's see the syntax. CSS selectors also is the another locators that doesn't have the direct value, doesn't have the direct properties in our object. So we have to create CSS selectors similar like XPath we did. So what's the syntax? It's very similar to your XPath. So here's the CSS selector, the syntax. So you can see for XPath it was started to double slash. So CSS selector there is no double slash, and then tag name, and then add in XPath you had a attribute equals to value, and here there is no it just attribute equals to value in single quote. So only the difference double slash and sign. This is the only difference. The same way you can also use, instead of tag name you can put asterisk, then attribute equals to value. You can use that too. So this is your syntax. Okay, so we're going to use the following syntax for CSS selectors, right? So number 8, we'll say using CSS selector locator. Okay, so let's type driver dot find element by dot CSS selectors. You can say CSS dot CSS selector, the second one, CSS selector. Also you can say it expect a string. So all the value, the syntax of the CSS selector have to be inside a string. So select this one and then put a double quote string, and here we're going to put the following the syntax. What's the tag name? So tag name attribute equals to value. So if you go here, so let's inspect this one. This is the the HTML code for this hide button. So what's the tag name? Tag name is input. We'll put input, and then there's no attribute, so no so what's the attribute? You can use ID or class, so let's use the ID. So if there is ID, I always prefer to use ID. So ID equals to, what's the value should be in single quote, right? So this is the value, hide text and put it there. Okay, put it there. And what do you want to do? So this is the address of that box using CSS selectors, and we're going to apply a click action. So let's type a click. Okay, and now let's put a comment the other one, so that we don't need a thread.slip either. So we'll see this one is working or not. Okay, so that's the CSS selectors. Let me save it and run it. Java application. Okay, it should work. You can see here, it clicked on hide. That's why the box, it's disappear. So it's worked. Okay, so that's the way you can use CSS selectors. So there is a few other way. Again, you can use CSS selector. You can find the CSS selector using the tools like selector subtools. Let me put it down. again, go here, selectors hub. You can see selectors hub, the relatives. Here you can see the selectors hub. Copy this one and put it here. This is also CSS selectors. This is the CSS selectors we found from our selectors hub, through the tools. So why this is different? The difference is, why is the different? Let me give you, there is a few other short syntax. So here's the note. If you have a ID in your HTML path, I mean, for this locator, whatever the locator object you are going to spy, you can follow the syntax. The syntax is the tag name for the ID, you put the hash, and then you can put the value of the ID. Okay, you can do this. The tag name, hash, value of the ID. So example, if your tag name is input hash, value of the ID, if it's a username, you can use this one. Okay, or you can ignore the tag name. You can just put the hash and the value of the your attribute. Okay, that's one way you can do. So in using the tools, they use this option without a tag, just hash and the value of the attribute. That's one way. And there's another way you can do also. If there is a class attribute, in your locator for the object you are locating, that time you can use only dot. You can use dot and the value of the attribute. So example, for this one we have, if we use this class, so it would be our CSS selector should be, I can tell you, let me copy this, and then it will be something like that. So we'll say CSS selectors, and then it will be, so if we use class, so class attributes, so let's copy the value of the class. You can see this is the value of the class. Okay, so in that case it will be in double quote, it will be something like that. So since we're using class attribute, for the class we'll put dot and the value of the class attribute. That's it. It will be this way. You can see dot and the value of your attribute, or you can use this format if you use ID. Okay, for ID it's a hash, for class it's a dot. Okay, well, there is a few other things I want to explain you. For the class you can use even tag name too, but it's better to use less is better. And here is another note over here. If the class value has a space between two tags, please put dot instance of a space where when you create a CSS selector. It means sometimes we see the class attribute, it has a value is too long, or there's a space. Here you can see there is a space. Here you can use this one and then the class 2, and there's a space. So between the space, better you can put a dot here. Okay, so if you use class and the value of the class have a space, then instead of a space, when you put the value of the class, instead of a space, put a dot. So that's another note for CSS selectors using a class. Okay, and then another one, if you have a long value or frequently changes the value of CSS selectors, the syntax would be tag name, then attribute, okay, star equals to value. So this one, it's only we apply if you have a attribute that we use, and if the value of the attribute is long. Example, your attribute is name, and the value of attribute is like this. So username 1 2 3 4 7 8 and so long, and some part of this attribute value is changing. So example, the number will be changed. you will see most of the applications, like big applications, say Facebook or Netflix, you will see, or Amazon, you will frequently see some part of the value of attribute is changing frequently. It's called dynamic attribute or properties. So how we are going to use those attribute? To use those attribute, what we're going to say that, and if we want to create a CSS selectors, it would be, it is for the XPath. That time you will create a tag name, then attribute asterisk equals to value, equals to some part of the value, like the fixed part of the value. So here, say number is going to change. Instead of using this number, you'll just use the fixed name, say example username. So this is for frequently change the value of CSS. This is for value of XPath. This is for XPath. Okay, this is for XPath. So you can create an XPath still using the attribute value. If it dynamic value, that time only use the part is fixed. You see this part is fixed like username, but the number is frequently changes. Don't worry about the number, just put it over here, and that time your syntax would be like this: tag name attribute asterisk equals to value. And also you can check through our tools. So that's why Selector Hubs is very powerful, very interesting tools that makes our life easy, that you can use these tools, and tools can also get you the XPath or CSS selectors. Okay, so that's all for the XPath and CSS selectors. It's very important. And thanks for now. We'll see you in the next class. Bye bye.